I'm Steve Krenz. We are back at legendary Gruhn Guitars here in Nashville, Tennessee, looking at the amazing guitars from the Eric Clapton collection. This is George Gruhn. George, tell us about this amazing instrument.
This is a guitar made in 1937 by John D'Angelico of New York. He's considered by many players to be certainly one of the finest, if not the finest, builder of acoustic archtop F-hole jazz guitars who ever lived. He actually modeled much of his early work on Gibson, but he made what was a more sophisticated guitar. As a one-man operation starting out in 1932, he made guitars that resembled very closely a Gibson L5. When Gibson introduced their so-called advanced model L5, going from 16 inches to a 17-inch body with X-pattern bracing, he followed suit, except instead of copying Gibson's peghead shape, which he had done previously, and their pickguard shape, he came out with his own more Art Deco pickguard and a different peghead design of his own, which actually has that
metal piece in there
up here, resembling very much what you'd see on a colonial highboy piece of furniture. So this design, I can't claim is his own exactly. He copied it off of some early American style furniture, but still, this has an Art Deco look to the whole guitar, and even the engraving on this inlay.
So in depth.
If you look at this engraving, you may note that some of the Collings guitars, Archtops, have what Bill called his broken glass pattern, and basically Bill was copying this engraving pattern, except he did it just cutting the pearl in these shapes of the engraving. So that's where he got a clear influence. And D'Angelico did X-bracing in this, and he also did these stylized F-holes that were his own design, which he did only rather briefly, right around 37. This is also before he introduced his own design tailpiece. This is still a Grover tailpiece that he just bought from Grover, and it is engraved D'Angelico here, but the basic pattern of this tailpiece is still one that he bought rather than having custom made. But within a year after this, he came out with a more Art Deco distinctive, made to his own spec tailpiece. But this is therefore an interesting transition: carved maple back, maple neck, carved spruce top, ebony fingerboard. And this guitar is quite original, with the exception of the tuners, which are vintage replica Grovers, and the original Grover gears are in the case. They weren't tuning smoothly anymore, so they were replaced with these new gears, but they retained the old gears. So this is a guitar set up in excellent playing order, used by Eric since, I believe, 2006. A guitar that is also made by an absolutely preeminent maker who was active from 1932 until his death in 1964. And he made a bit over 1,100 guitars in his lifetime.
Really?
Serial numbered instruments. And also he made a few hundred mandolins that were very high quality.
I didn't know that.
A lot of his clients were professional players, and his prices were not all that much different than what a musician had to pay to buy a new Gibson, except that with Gibson, the dealer bought them for half of that list price, whereas D'Angelico was selling straight to musicians, most of whom were professional players, and he got to keep the money. In other words, he wasn't selling them for half price to a dealer. He was selling them for his price, which was essentially very close to the price of buying a new Gibson. Mm-hmm. So for people in the know, especially in New York, those professional players went to John, they'd order guitars, and he did a lot of custom specs, because this neck is a pretty standard, just about 1 11/16, but I've had some that had necks as wide as 2 inches at the nut. Depending on what the player want, he could make the nut narrower, wider. If you're a professional player and you had certain particular preferences, how you wanted it to sound and feel, John would work with you. And it's a great guitar by a great maker.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, George.